Listen to this. This is Ron White here. Now, Ron White, when it comes to Ron White on the JRE, you're going to hear some of the wokest liberal, not even woke and liberal, but maybe it's your parents, maybe it's your uncle, and they are just completely taken in by mainstream media. That's what you hear a lot with Ron White. But he also has his extremely cool side as an Austin resident, longtime Austin resident, Ron White. He quit drinking because he took ayahuasca and went under hypnosis. So I just want to listen to this. And then, you know what? While this is playing, I'm going to jump over here and I'm going to find some Terrence McKenna talking about ayahuasca as well, because why not? I like to leave things on an esoteric note, you know what I mean, on a let's think about things type of note. So let's do that. So we'll have this, then we got Terrence McKenna telling some ayahuasca stories. Let's go.
But
I don't think anybody really understands it.
yeah, right. Yeah. And I know there's some stuff that's stronger than that, but I don't.
That's crazy.
I don't know what it's called. What
Ibogaine, you mean?
is that? What it is?
Ibogaine is the one that people use for addiction. There's a place called Beyond that's in Mexico that does that. Rick Perry was telling us about that. A lot of former governor Rick Perry is part of that. He really wants to bring Ibogaine to Texas and have treatment
We can't
centers.
be gambling here.
I think they can get Ibogaine. I think especially with a Republican like Rick Perry, who's really concerned about the mental health of veterans, because I think that's where it really shines. Ibogaine in particular helps a lot of people. It gives you like a review of your life. Apparently, I've never experienced it, but the people that have very positive things to say about it, and it's incredibly good at helping people get over addictions. It has a very high success rate. For one treatment, I think it's in the 80%, and then if you do 2 treatments, it's in the mid-90s.
That's amazing.
Yeah, people that never go back to the drugs, never go back to whatever it is, gambling, whatever you have. Whatever's wrong with you.
All you got to do is figure out what's wrong with you.
Yeah, you got to figure out why you're doing that. Like, what is this pathway that I keep going down that's sabotaging my whole life, and why can I not resist it? Why do I keep reaching for the bottle? What is it? Why do I keep snorting coke? What is it? What is it?
Well, that was the question I had with myself, because I drank like a fool for years.
You don't say.
It was funny because whenever I was single again, and I was in the green room, and I said, maybe I'll start drinking again. And everybody at one time went, no.
Yeah. No,
that's not it. I was just kidding. Just kidding.
Well, you quit like that, though. You did you were gone.
I did. And but I went to Rhythmia with intention. I wanted to know why I was doing this to myself and why I could not see a way to quit. And it was so tied up in my persona, my stage presence, who I really was at the time. And I'm like, why is this all tied to me? And why can't I shake it? And so with that, I also went through hypnosis because I had to get sober before I went to, because that's not what their deal is. They're not a treatment facility. It could be a byproduct of it, but they're like, yeah, we're not gonna, we don't have detox here, so you have to quit some other way. And once you've been sober for a month, you can come down here, which is exactly what I did. I came up with a way to do that through hypnosis, which I thought was pretty effective. But I got sober once before in one of those rehabs in Malibu for $90,000, and which was. At the time, I was spiraling. I was living in a 5-star hotel in Beverly Hills. I was doing a bunch of blow. I was screwing expensive hookers, which was exactly my life plan. I'm like, okay, here it is. This is, and it ended up feeling pretty hollow. And I ended up going there, and I stayed sober for about maybe 6 months or something like that. But it was white knuckle the whole time. of, no fun. But when I did it the way I did it, when I checked into that facility, I got the night sweats so bad when I quit that they had 2 beds in the new people's things, and I would soak the sheets in one of them and move to the other bed and soak the sheets in that one. I was detoxing big time. Never happened this time. I never had a night sweat, never regretted it. Never thought about it again, never tempted to drink again. And I own number 1 tequila still, and it's there at the green room every night. And it doesn't even bother me a bit.
That's interesting. So that's what the big fear a lot of people have is, how will I still be around bars?
Right. And, yeah, is it a little awkward at first? Yes. And do I hang out in bars all the time? Other than our club, no, I don't. I mean, I'll go listen to music if there's something, but just to go to a bar and hang out, I just don't do it.
Right.
And for whatever reason.
Well, it's not that much fun being around drunks when you're sober.
No, it's really not.
Like, you got to be in the vibe of the drunks to appreciate drunk talk.
Yeah.
When you're sober and someone's drunk and they're telling you some story about their boss being a douchebag, it's like, whoa.
Right. So, and I also have a natural tendency to just kind of isolate anyway, and so I really, that's one of the things I love about the club is it gets me out of the house. It gets me to go down there where my friends are and do what I do for a living, and what I do for a living and what I do for fun, both.
I think a lot of people have that problem, that isolation problem,
Yeah. Yeah. Because I think that that people like you and I think a lot gets dumped on us, because I'm of all the friends that I know that I've known for a long while, I'm the only one that's been very successful, not out of my comic friends, but out of my regular friends. And it seems like I have to take in a lot of stuff, and I never knew how to get rid of it. So I would just get to the point where I was full and I couldn't take anymore, and that's when I would isolate myself.
Right. Too many people want something from you.
Too many people want something. That's why I'm gravitate towards you, is because I know you don't want jack from me except for me to be your buddy.
Well, do you want me to tell you about the ayahuasca experience?
Oh, yeah, sure. You remember? How much do you remember?
Well, I remember how I found out about it, which is weird because it was a friend of mine's wife. But I'd heard.
Hey, look at this. Say what you want about Ron White, but look at this guy. Where's that clip of him? Look how much he's changed, man. Look at that. This is from 3 years ago when he first got clean. This is him now. He's looking a lot better. A lot better. Wow. I mean, he still has terrible takes when it comes to the mainstream media and thinking everything's a conspiracy, but man, he looks a lot better. Look at that. I got to give it to him. That's amazing. That's hard to do when you're older, man.
That ayahuasca word before, and so I knew a very, very little bit about it. So then I started kind of researching it. What is it? Where does it come from? It's a strong hallucinogen, which I've always had a tendency to like anyway. So I thought it sounded like it was right up my alley. But for a long time, you had to get on a canoe, and go down and find a corrugated tin shack and sleep on a dead floor, and so it wasn't very appealing to a lot of people. So the guy that opened the place, he had money, and he said he bought part of a JW Marriott beach resort. Well, he bought their overflow area, which was not on the beach, but in the jungle with a big fence. Fucking howler monkeys, the most useless animal in the world. They scream at the top of their lungs. Other monkeys must just hate them. Can you tone it down a little bit? Howl. So I thought, well, I'll sign up for that, and I'll use that to get off liquor, because a lot of people do come away from there with a different perspective.
Okay, I want to hear about the actual experience. I'm going to skip ahead a little bit here.
And I was just sitting there conscious of everything he was saying, but in a whatever hypnotic state for sure. So he was good at that. And obviously it was kind of weird because he said, imagine you're on the 22nd floor of a building and you're getting on the elevator. And it's kind of weird because I live on the 22nd floor of a building. He didn't know that, but odd. And so I finished the first session. He says, "Okay, don't quit drinking." I'm like, "Great, great. I like this program." So I came back, and I thought maybe it was 4 sessions over a period of a month, and so but after the second one, I quit drinking, and I was just waiting for the shoe to fall. I was waiting to start getting sick off of not drinking, and it didn't happen, and it really didn't bother me not to drink, and it was set up for as soon as I was finished with that, I'd go straight to South or whatever that pill I took, Costa Rica, and I checked into this place, and it was really, really nice. You can go, where you can share a room with somebody, which they recommend that experience with somebody you don't know, but I didn't want to do that. So you can also get your own room, and it's not overly expensive compared to rehab in Malibu, which I repriced at $100,000 for 30 days.
What?
$100,000,
really?
$3,000 a night, and they recommended a minimum of 30 days, and that was on the street I lived on in Beverly Hills, up at the top of it, and so this is like. You could do this for if you shared a room with somebody for like $1,800 for a week. And mine was like $5,000, but I had a nice room, and it was, a really nice place. They cooked all your food, and it was healthy, but it was really good. It was no soda pops, no alcohol, no, a lot of shit I wouldn't advertise if I was trying to get people to go down there. And but pineapple juice and coconut water, great. And so. You get down there, and you had a group of about 50 people, I think, was in our group that were, and everybody has their own room, but then there's this one space where everybody gets together for this experience of ayahuasca. So there's 50 mattresses on the floor that have, really nice sheets and pillows and blankets, and they're on the floor, and it's very ceremonial in that, there's a guy, a shaman that looks like a shaman, feathers and and you stand in line with your little cup, and he gives you a cup of this mud, awful tasting stuff. And I did mine, and I just talked to him like he's a regular person. And I said, "So what do you do?" And he says, well, outside there was a bunch of hammocks. It was a beautiful space. Really couldn't have been any better. And hammocks all around. He says, "Go out there and sit in a hammock, and whenever you need to, when it's time, you just come back in." I said, "How do I know when it's time?" He goes, "Oh, you'll know." I was like, "Okay, all right." So I took my ayahuasca and I went out there, and I'm like, "Oh, it's kind of like mushrooms a little bit." I felt myself coming onto it, and then I opened my mouth, and the entire forest poured into it. And I'm like, "That's probably the signal right there that it's time to go in. I think I get it." So I went in and I laid down on my my bunk. Now some people throw up on it, so you have a puke bucket too, but some people get the shits. I got the shits. Vomiting's way better because you can vomit from your bed. But if you got the shits, you got to get up and find someplace. There's bathrooms, a lot of them. So, but I never thought I'd see people throwing up in a bucket and go, "Lucky. I wish I was throwing up, but I got the shits." And so I laid down and I tripped so hard, and it was really dark. And they said lean towards the dark side. So if there's a rainbow and a unicorn, and then there's a guy you don't understand in your yard, go towards the dark guy in the yard. Don't hop on the unicorn and jump over the rainbow. Go the other way. And don't fight it. Just let it happen. But I think I just struggled with it the first night. And I was getting really distorted images of people's faces when they got close to me, and I was tripping so hard that I was like, my head was itching, and I just couldn't figure it out, how to make my head stop itching. And I thought about scratching it, but I wasn't exactly sure how to use my hands anymore. And somebody walked by, and I asked them to scratch my head. And they were like, "Yeah, sure." Like this. Yeah. "Oh, that's it. That's good." And I really thought towards the end of that I wouldn't do it again, because I just didn't see the benefit of it. It scared me. It didn't scare me, but it wasn't pleasant at all. Like it wasn't like mushrooms and it wasn't like acid. To me, it wasn't. And you could almost see somebody's skull when they were too close to you, and I was just wanting it to be over. And the beautiful thing about ayahuasca is it is over. I mean, it only goes for like 2 hours, and when it's done, it's done. And so they time it so you can do more. You can do all you want, but not past a certain point. And then it's at one point they turn on the lights and go good morning, and it's over. You can't just go home, go back to your room, and go to sleep real fast. But it's over. All those things are gone. It gets out of your system completely so fast. And then there's music, there's live band, or people in congos and guitars, and so it's funky. And some people, even while I was in my wildest point of this trip, they were up just dancing around the room. I'm like, Jesus Christ, how are you doing this? I don't understand. And so I thought, I think that's about enough, right? And then by the next day, once I got out of it, and then people were kind of sit around and share their experiences and whatever. And I was into the whole thing, and I was really trying to surrender myself to the experience. I was trying to do what they were asking me to do, and get the whole ride. And so the next night I went in, and it was a different shaman every night, and he gave me about half a cup. And I said, the other person gave me a whole cup of this, and he said, yeah, the mother ayahuasca said to give you the night off and tone it down for you. And I don't know if he talked to the other guy, and I don't know why he said that. But so I took that dose, and I went outside, and I sat and I noticed it had been a while, and it started coming on to me, and I just felt this overpouring of love. I mean, it was just amazing for everything. I felt it just filling my body with just love and happiness. And so that night, I was really just digging on the music, got up and danced. Everybody wears white, and I didn't know why at first, but that's so they can't see you. They can see you sneaking off to your room to get some smokes, because they busted me doing that the first night. I was like trying to creep away. I'm like, I didn't know you could smoke out here, but so that was great. And afterwards, I really felt a just deep connection to the whole place. It felt like this was, a journey that was, designed for me, because I just felt wonderful about myself, about decisions I was making, about the direction I was headed in my life and all this stuff. And then the next night was a bigger dose, and I went back and got a bigger dose and went back and got another dose and just rode it out and loved it. And it was really just that first. And he said that the first night was kind of a death, and the second night was kind of a rebirth. And I'm like, okay, all right, whatever. So the last night, you started at like 7, I think, and it's over at 12:30. That experience, and then the last night, you start at 5, and it goes till 10 o'clock the next day. So you do smaller doses, but you do them all night long, and that was really groovy for me. But this one chick completely wigged out, and I mean kicking, screaming, yelling, really unpleasant. And they had to take her outside and tie her up before she hurt somebody. God. And I thought, why aren't these guys wigging out over this? Because I am. Because it looked like she was going to hurt somebody or hurt herself, and they were having a hard time controlling her. And she didn't even know that it was an ayahuasca place. She thought it was a yoga place, and her husband signed her up for it. Now, she had done ayahuasca 3 other nights and was fine, but this time she just lost it. And so they took her outside, and they just bound her up, and they stayed with her. And but here's the thing. When it's over, it's over. And even though everybody was really concerned about her, she came back in with the biggest smile on her face. And she had some demons, and she needed to work through it, and it was horrible. And I know what it was, that happened to her because they told me, and it was awful, awful, awful.
So some stuff from her past.
Some stuff from her past, horrible. I won't even say it.
Yeah.
And so she went from who knows what in what place she was in to the biggest smile I've ever seen.
Man, when I did it, I had that same thing. I shared a room with somebody and they went ballistic and they were smashing things and they smashed the wall and they bit the shaman till the shaman drew blood. And I only raised my head up to look once. And when I looked up, the shaman had the guy in a headlock and he was screaming like a demon, like a banshee. And he had him in a headlock and he was just telling him to calm down. And he was biting and kicking and smashing things, put holes in the wall, all sorts of stuff. And again, like he just said about her, the guy had, I knew the guy. I knew who the guy was. Like it wasn't a stranger to me. He had some demons. He was a real, he wasn't the best person. And you kind of pay a certain repentance for that when you delve into those realms. Yeah, I did it too. Yeah, I did it. I did it back in the day. Not even back in the day, like 2018 I did it. And that was the last time I did anything like that. I did that. This guy went ballistic. And when he retold the story, he's like, I went to hell for everything I did. He's like, I saw hell. I could feel it. He's like, I could feel the heat of it, the pain of it. And what he was explaining was also the pain he had put people through as well. So did you have to go to another country? Nope. No, I didn't have to go to another country. Undisclosed location, but it was here. And I'll say it was on this continent somewhere. There's a lot to this place. But yeah, he went absolutely nuts. He went nuts and just messed everything up. My computer was in the room. He smashed my computer, like just everything. It was crazy. And I was the opposite. I was laying there and I felt great. I didn't really care to get up and dance or anything, but I had a great experience. I was seeing a lot of things, a lot of hallucinations, and I have this tendency to try and take care of people. And even in that moment, the ayahuasca, when I thought to myself, I should get up and help, the ayahuasca was like, no, you're not going to get up and help. That's not your journey. This right here is your journey and that's their journey. And you just let them be. And that was something I needed to hear because I kept on grabbing onto people to help them. And I was doing that too much in my life. And it was taking away from my own life's experience. You had to have a shaman or something. Yeah, there's two shaman. And when that guy flipped out, they called a third person who was kind of like a backup, big dude. He was kind of like a backup, making sure everything was good. And yeah, that was it. Two very experienced people, lovely people, and they handled everything. But there were people screaming and crying. There was one guy who was the CEO of a pharmaceutical company, and he was in another room dancing on his bed, and you could hear him. And he was like, I know why. I know why now. I know why now. He just kept doing that. It was wild. It was a very wild thing. And one thing that came through to me, they're lucky that didn't happen to you. They would have Yeah, you know what? Funny enough, the dude who it did happen to, he was a little guy. He was like 5'6", maybe 160 pounds. Like he was a little guy. But yeah, I guess they are lucky. They are lucky in that sense. But what came through for me was I got these very clear visions of like, you have to mend your relationship with your brothers. You have to have a better relationship with your brothers. You have to ask for your girlfriend's hand in marriage, who's now my wife. So I followed that advice. And that was it. It just kept telling me those things. And it also told me you don't have to do this stuff anymore. This stuff that you're doing, because I was doing psychedelics a lot. It was like, you don't have to keep doing this. You don't have to keep on doing this. You're good. You don't have to keep doing this. And they were saying that's why when people say that all these things in the psychedelic realm are demons, I don't really think so. I think it's like going through Chicago. You can turn into a bad area or you can be in a very nice area. And this thing was like entity, mother ayahuasca, whatever you want to call it. It was like, this could be dangerous. This could get dangerous. Look around you. There's people screaming and this and that. This could be dangerous. You don't have to do stuff like this anymore. It was like advising me to stop doing psychedelics so much because, at a certain point, you're not really trying to fix anything. You're just kind of doing it. And yeah, it was telling me to stop.
Yes, ayahuasca is perhaps the...
It was just telling me to
Terrence
stop. It was like, that's enough, man. And so that was the last time you did anything. Yeah. Well, it wasn't the last time I smoked, because my thing was smoking. So it wasn't the last time I did that, but it was the last time I did any type of psychedelic strong substance like that. I was just like, okay, I guess I'm done. And that was it. I was like, I guess I just wait for a call. If I get the calling towards it one day, maybe I'll go back. But because I'm not opposed to those things. Again, I'm not one of those people who stops something and then looks down on people who still do them. And I'm never like that. That's why I got the tattoos. My whole arm is tattooed with this stuff. I got this stuff up and down my arm. And I'm going to get more. So I never do that. I never do that to people. I'm not opposed to them. Just I haven't been called to do them. And I don't do them frivolously. I always do them with respect and reverence and ceremony. So yeah, that was the last time. And after I was done, exactly like what he said, they're like, it's over. And then all of a sudden it's over. You're like, and you're all of a sudden you're fine. You're a little groggy, but you're pretty much fine. It's really weird. So that was it for me. And after it, I felt like the only way I could describe it to people is I felt like I had $1 million in my bank account. Like the way that you would feel right now if someone gave you a check and you put it into your bank and you looked at your bank and you saw $1 million in your bank account. How you would feel, the relief you would feel, knowing that you don't have to go to work tomorrow if you don't want to. You're going to be okay. Things are now taken care of in the material sense of payments and stuff. And you get to breathe. That weight would be lifted off of you. That's how I felt after. I felt this incredible relief off of my chest and my mind and my body and my soul. Yeah, these last times I did Zoom, I fell asleep. Yeah, it's like I want to trip still. I just don't. Yeah, if you don't need to, you don't need to.
To be given.
Like, I get it when people feel like they want to deal with something, et cetera, et cetera. But if you don't need it, you don't need it. And it's not a bad thing. Like Ron White, I kind of had this idea, and I think everybody does when they're a little addicted to stuff, where they're like, oh man, am I going to be the same person? I'm not going to be cool. Like, they think it's a part of their identity. They think that people think it's a part of their identity, but it's not. Like, that's all just in your head. If you want to stop something, you can, I don't want to say if you want to stop, you can just stop flat out, but you don't have to. It's not the thing that makes you cool. You're cool enough as it is. You're enough. You don't need an add-on to make you better in that sense, But yeah, Terrence McKenna, man. Let's listen to Terrence McKenna talk about it. He's going to be a little different than Ron White. I don't know how many people know about Terrence McKenna, but he's a tad different than Ron White. So let's listen to this. This is a weird clip. This is like Joe Rogan with a podcast with Terrence McKenna that didn't really happen. So like somebody just like made something, but let's Let's do that first. Let's have fun. What is this?
McKenna theory called the stoned ape theory.
Pleasure to be here.
Human beings were experimenting with psilocybin mushrooms.
That's absolutely correct.
Well, fungus in general is a freak.
That's silly. That's silly. Here, let's go to him actually talking about giving us some stories here.
Kat and I were in the Amazon in '76 taking ayahuasca. We got in with this certain group of people in Peru that took it every week. And, you know, cultures have different ways of handling hassle. And in some cultures it's confrontational, in other cultures not. The way these Peruvian country folk operated was if somebody was screwing up, nobody would ever say so. They would just talk about these people behind their back until the morphogenetic field of gossip was so strong that you would basically awaken to the problem. So there was a complex social situation going on in this ayahuasca circle, which was there was a master shaman who we were apprenticed to, who was beloved by his neighborhood. But he had a nephew, a sobrino, who was a jerk. I mean, this guy was, as Don Fidel said, ambitious. He dealt a little weed, he did a little pimping, he was just sort of an edge runner type of guy. And every Saturday night we would all get together and take ayahuasca, about 30 of us. Older shamans, our guy, people from the neighborhood, and this sobrino, Don Jose. So, I don't know what the real history of it was, because I had just arrived on the scene. But these old guys would sing these icaros, these magical songs on ayahuasca that appear as colored tapestries in front of your eyes. And you know, they had soul, they were into it, and this guy would sing against them. I mean, it's the rudest thing you can possibly imagine. I mean, imagine if you know, Lou Reed were trying to give a performance and the guy in the third row just launched into Old Man River and kept at it, you know. I mean, in this town, I'm sure large guys would appear and say, "Sir." In Peru, it didn't work like that. They just kept singing. He kept singing. And it was clear that this is how it was going to be handled, that we had just divided into two separate entities here. Well, my wife was sitting next to me, and he was sitting across the room from us, the sobrino, and I had been watching him for a long time, and I was loaded to the gills, and I could see he would get up on his haunches, and he looked like a monkey. His face, it was uncanny. I mean, he looked like a monkey, and he also looked kind of like a jackal, a dog with long teeth. Kept going through these changes, and Kat leaned over to me and said something like, "This guy is an asshole." And I just said, you know, let it slide. What do we know? Think of it as anthropology. But she wasn't having it. So after a while, he kept doing this. And at one point, and everybody in the room, every person in the room was bummed out, and they were looking at their laps. All eye contact was broken. It's actually, when I was a kid, I invented a word. The word is fardao, and it means the embarrassment you feel when someone else fucks up. You know, and you happen to just be there, but somehow the aura of it is so strong. So the entire room is just awash in fardao. And the old guys are singing, and the guy is singing. So then at the end of a particularly intense clash of these two styles, my wife just looked across the room at this guy and like put the whammy on him. And I saw these red arrows leave her eyes and like dotted lines go across them. And they move fairly slowly, you know, more slowly than you could throw a ball or something. Well, when this line of red arrows got to this guy, he was knocked off his feet. He fell backwards with his legs in the air, and there was a big noise. And all the singing stopped, and everybody in the room looked up, and these three old shaman who were sitting behind Don Fidel, who I, to that point, had not heard speak any language but Quechua, one turned to the other, and he says in Spanish, "Oh, the gringa sends the Zabudabara."
What the fuck? That's Terrence McKenna for you. That's Terrence McKenna for you. Oh man, so weird. Let's hear some more of that. And good on you for quitting that, man. I've seen too many of my friends pass away from that stuff. It's terrible. But also, you know, smoking is not part of your identity, man. It probably feels that way. You know, like I started smoking when I was about 9 myself. So it's like I didn't have much time to build any kind of other identity. And I could definitely argue, like, you know, I think I'm at a point now where I've lived a life not smoking longer than I had. I don't even think so, because from 9 to the time I was, I think, 32 or 33, I was smoking the whole time. So yeah, I haven't even lived not smoking as long as I haven't been smoking. I've smoked more of my life than not smoked, and that includes from the time I was a kid and a baby and everything to, you know, being a father and husband now. And it feels like it's a part of your identity, but it's not. Because here's the thing. Like what's part of your identity is like your brain or your heart. Because if I took either of those away, it would completely change you. Take away your brain, you'd be completely comatose. Take away your heart, you'd be a corpse. But if you took away smoking, you'd still be alive. You wouldn't like it. But yeah, or maybe you would. I don't even know. But it's not a part of your identity to that extent. I think anything that you can take away and you'll still be alive is probably not a part of your identity. It's just something that you really identify with, and it probably helps in a way, you know? Actually, I know for sure. I was an avid smoker. Like, that was my thing. I was a crazy smoker all the time, like 10 times a day, all day. It was crazy. Easily. That and like 2 packs of cigarettes a day. I was a smoker. I was a real smoker, you know? You could, and I don't know if you don't want it, especially because, you know, you're already quitting something so vicious. So you probably feel like you still need that around. You probably do, in a sense, still need that around. But you're all I'm saying is that you're more than that. You're more than that as a person. Like, I get a lot from you, and I've never smoked with you or seen you smoked. You know, you've probably been a little lit when you're on here or whatever. But still, you're probably, what I get from you has nothing to do with that. So it's not like a real part of your identity. You know what I mean? Yeah, I know what you mean. Even when I wasn't smoking, I was still a class clown at cooking school. Ha ha ha! Cooking school. That makes a lot of sense. You're a chef. That makes sense. Or a cook, whatever you want to call it. You know, sous chef. I don't know, maybe even executive chef. I don't know. But yeah, that makes sense. You got that type of attitude that a chef would have. Just from what I've gotten from you, you have that type of attitude. My buddy's a chef. My buddy Alan, who I grew up with, he was always a chef. And they're wild. That's why I say you have that attitude. They're edgy. They're wild. They don't play around, you know? They're an interesting bunch of people. Plus, my wife was like a server, and then she became like a general manager of a restaurant. So she was like, I was always around those types. Yeah, very interesting. But let's hear Terrence talk about this a little more.
The world's largest and most thriving psychedelic religion. It touches the lives of millions of mestizos and Indians in the basin. It is a combinatory drug, which makes it especially interesting to pharmacologists because its 2 principal ingredients are themselves inactive except in the presence of each other. So what we have in the case of ayahuasca is an example of a highly evolved folk pharmacology, and how a discovery like this was ever made in the first place is one of the challenging questions that anthropologists have to deal with. After all, in a square mile of Amazonian rainforest, it is not unusual to encounter 50,000 distinct species of plants. How then did these so-called primitive or pre-literate people make the connection between the combining of the bark of one with the leaves of another, boiled and put through a number of procedures to produce an intense visionary hallucinogen? This is an extremely interesting and, to this day, unanswered question.
Isn't it the case that I believe it was the German chemist who isolated this the chemical active ingredient in ayahuasca, originally named it telepathine?
Yes, that's right. Based on field reports of the states of group mind induced by ayahuasca, which is also called yahe, he felt it was fitting to name it telepathine. Now, the rules of scientific nomenclature are such that the first name of a compound is always given precedent, and about 20 years after it was named telepathine, it was realized that the identical compound had been isolated around the turn of the century from the giant Syrian rue, Pergamon harmala, and named harmine. So today, the active ingredients of ayahuasca are known as harmine, harmaline, and tetrahydroharman. But your point is well taken. What struck the early explorers and ethnographers into the Amazon basin was the fact that the people seemed to be taking this plant preparation in order to undergo states of community group-mindedness. And during these intoxicating intervals, social plans relative to migration, hunting, and warfare were undertaken by the elders of the tribe. And though the name has been changed to the more innocuous harmine, nevertheless, there's a continued persistence of the feeling that telepathic and group mind states are induced by this particular plant mixture. And it's particularly interesting in the light of the fact that the chemical constituents which make it go are in fact found endogenously in the human brain. These are not exotic compounds from the point of view of ordinary human brain chemistry. So there is a suggestion there that manipulation of neurohumoral compounds, brain neurotransmitters, and that sort of thing may in fact open the door to untapped areas of human potential.
I would imagine that many of our viewers have seen the movie The Emerald Forest, which seems to deal with the use of substances of this sort.
Man, he's talking about telepathy. Didn't I tell you? Didn't I tell you telepathy was real? Didn't I tell you guys that in the last episode? Come on. I told you. Look up the telepathy tapes. It's a real thing. Sometimes we just need things to coax it out of us, but it's a real thing. You know how many people were upset about that telepathy episode? They're like, this is completely wrong. This is completely wrong. I've watched this video for at least 4 minutes, and this is completely wrong. And it's like, all right, geez, it's a video. It's weird when people can't explore ideas. It's very odd to me when people feel like, no, Siri, I didn't turn you on, Siri. No, turn off. What's wrong with Siri? It's weird when people refuse to explore ideas. I always find that so odd. It weirds me out when I see people like that. They're just like, no, I will not explore your idea. I will not give it even a second of my time. It's not real. Just this very interesting stuff. All right, let's end it off with Terrence McKenna talking about if reality is even real. Actually, you know what? This is my podcast. I want to listen to Alan Watts. I like Alan Watts. I have a playlist of Alan Watts. Oh, not on this channel. I gotta switch channels. I got 2 channels for anyone that doesn't know. A lot of people don't know I have 2 channels. Let's go to the Alan Watts channel. Let's pick something out here. If you guys are here and you can see things, you're saying happy birthday. My birthday's on Friday. I said it was this weekend. A lot of people thought I meant like right away kind of thing. Let's listen to Alan Watts. Let's end it off with something here. Overcoming Fear. I like that one. Let's go.
It's all unbelievable. It's amazing. I wonder at it. I marvel at it. It is a miracle. Let's suppose that you were able every night to dream any dream you wanted to dream. And that you could, for example, have the power within one night to dream 75 years of time, or any length of time you wanted to have. And you would naturally, as you began on this adventure of dreams, you would fulfill all your wishes. You would have every kind of pleasure you could conceive. And after several nights of 75 years of total pleasure each, you would say, well, that was pretty great. But now let's have a surprise. Let's have a dream which isn't under control. Well, something is going to happen to me that I don't know what it's going to be. And you would dig that and come out of that and say, wow, that was a close shave, wasn't it? And then you would get more and more adventurous, and you would make further and further out gambles as to what you would dream. And finally, you would dream where you are now. You would dream the dream of living the life that you are actually living today. That would be within the infinite multiplicity of choices you would have. So you have always, when you are in the theater, say you go to the movies, and you go to see some great horror movie, you know, awful thing. Well, why does one do it? You want a thrill. And the whole of the universe wants a thrill. But when you go to the movie, you know in your heart of hearts that it's only a movie. And yet you contrive to some degree to forget this while you're there, and therefore get scared and feel real creeps. So one might say then that it is possible in this life to attain a sort of metaphysical courage in which you really know deep within that the most harrowing experiences that physical existence can offer are a show. So there is a poem which says, under the sword lifted high, there is hell making you tremble. But go ahead, and there is the land of bliss. Don't hesitate, see? Don't be blocked. Don't be phased, nonplussed by the illusion. But you must remember that the secret to all this is not to be afraid of fear. When you can really allow yourself to be afraid, and you don't resist the experience of fear, you are truly beginning to master fear. And then furthermore, when you realize that in a world where there are no eyes, the sun would not be light, and that in a world where there were no soft skins, rocks would not be hard, nor in a world where there were no muscles would they be heavy. Existence is relationship, and you are smack in the middle of it. Things, for example, are measurements. They are units of thought, like inches are units of measurement. There are no things in physical nature. How many things is a thing? It's any number you want. Because a thing is a think, a unit of thought. It's as much of reality as you can catch hold of in one idea. So when you don't cling to it, when you have no longer a hostile attitude to the world because you know the world is you, it is. I mean, let's take it from the point of view of biology. If I describe the behavior of a living organism, I cannot possibly describe that behavior without simultaneously describing the behavior of the environment. So that I discover that I don't describe organisms in environments, I describe a unified field of behavior called an organism environment. It's an awkward word, but there it is. The environment doesn't push the organism around. The organism doesn't push the environment around. They are two aspects or poles of the same process. And if you want to stay in the state of illusion, stay in it. But you can always wake up.
Oh man, you can always wake up. I like that. I like the way he ended that. If you want to see, and that's it. That's just like life today. You know, you can always stay in the illusion. You can always wake up. I kind of go the opposite way, where it's like I always like to go to the tinfoil realm of things and wake up to the whole. You know, it's not really left versus right, and you can see everything that's going on much deeper than what the news tells us, what the clips tell us. But you don't live there. You don't want to live there. Some people live there. And it kind of makes life unbearable. It's like the woke person that stays in the realm of victimhood and everybody's a Nazi and, you know, white guys are evil and all the nonsense that they spew. They live in that place and it gets to them. You know, that can happen to us too. So I don't live in that tinfoil place. I always come out of it and I just say, oh, okay, what did Pete Hegseth say today? He said that? Wow. What else is going on? Oh, the stock market? Is that bad? It is? Okay. Okay. You know? You gotta be able to shift back and forth. Yeah. Because if you don't shift back and forth, then you become victim to a different illusion. Right? If you stay in the tinfoil realm, you fall victim to a different illusion. A lot of people think it's like, no. When I stay there, I see everything. But it's like, no. You don't see everything if you're there. There's actually a whole lot you don't see. That's why if you have to move back and forth. The only way to have the veil lifted is for there to be a veil there. Right? So if you lift the veil and then you just stay with the veil off, then there's another illusion that takes place. Because then you start to take in what you're seeing, or you start believing your own nonsense, I should say, kind of thing, you know? You start really believing everything, even things that you don't have any information on or any facts to support. It becomes very like that, and that's why I bring up the analogy of like the woke person, because they don't really have facts to support the things that they say. And there's a whole world that's showing them that these things aren't true. And they're still like, no. You're wrong. And I have to go key a Tesla now. So that's how I save the world. Thank you very much. And then they go off and you're like, huh. It's like they're in some illusion. But they've had the veil lifted. You know, everybody has their veil lifted. They can see through everything. They see through the Trump presidency, and they know that Elon Musk runs the government. They know what's happened. That's the illusion that they fall to now. Right? You see a lot of people on the other side of things. I know that it's funny because it's kind of it's the same but different. You know, people on the right. I know that Trump is being controlled. I can tell that he is. It's not Elon Musk because that's absolutely absurd. But it's something else. It's a Middle Eastern country, if you know what I mean. And it's like, oh, okay. So you also have your little, both sides have their thing where it's like, I don't have proof of him, but I saw him. He pushed in a chair for Benjamin Netanyahu, you understand. He was obliging somebody. I mean, he pushed a chair in. Obviously, you know what that means. He pushed the chair in for someone. It's like, oh no. What's going to happen when you see him do it for Ivanka? That's going to spin your head. What's going to happen when you see him see Joe Biden and he nods at him and says, "Good to see you, Joe." Oh gosh. That's what happened when people saw Trump with Obama at the funeral, Jimmy Carter's funeral. They went, "Oh, look at these guys." It's like, did you think they were going to get into a fist fight? Oh, two wings of the same bird, man. They sat down and talked to each other. What? What did you think they were going to do? They're a president and the former president. I know the former president sucks, but still, what did you think was going to happen? You thought Trump was going to drop kick him? You don't want to fall victim to the illusions. That's why it's good to be able to shift, because you get more information. If you just stay in the tinfoil realm, you only get the information there. That realm is limited. But then you shift into the mainstream realm, and yeah, there's a lot of propaganda there, but you need to see the propaganda so you can see the game that they're trying to play. You can't see the game. If you don't hear any of the propaganda, you can't figure out what the game is that they're playing. And then you're kind of walking a little blind. That's why all the time I always talk about the World Economic Forum, because I learned about it extensively. So now all of a sudden I can see their agenda being executed through certain left-leaning governments. And I go, that makes sense. And then I look someone up and, they are tied to okay, now I understand. You know, I take that mainstream realm information and I bring it back to the tinfoil realm and I see what I can do with it. And I go, okay, so it does make sense. And sometimes it doesn't make sense, you know? It's on site with Obama and Trump. Trump just goes, "I took away your Secret Service, Obama, and I don't see Michael here to help you. So what do you want to do? You want to get down with me or what? You're like 150 pounds soaking wet. I'm 215, 220 after a Diet Coke. And I'm going to beat the hell out of you, Barack." Just right away, they start punching each other out. That's why in They Live, you can't just have the shades on all the time. You have to take them off. Man, that perfect analogy. Perfect analogy. That summed it up so much better than what I was doing. Yes. That's why in They Live, you can't just have the shades on all the time. You have to take them off sometimes. So you understand who, like when you see the Obey and everything, you can't just see the Obey and be like, you have to go, okay, what is that? Okay, that's the company that's deceiving people. Okay, I get it now. Exactly. Perfect analogy, man. Nice. Thank you for bringing the good at the end of your show. Always leaving on a good note and feeling. Bless you, my friend. Appreciate you and this team. Man, thank you so much. Really appreciate that.